But it was a beautiful little church. Now what?
Oh, that's that one though, isn't it? Because that was
Olga Larson's,
Olga.
and this was
Chichenov's.
Chichenov's. And there was a little house. See this stump root, old dead root right here? Mm-hmm. There was a little house right down there, past it. That's where I delivered my first baby, a self-made. There were houses all along here. And
The road, the store, the post office was just along the edge here. Quite a ways back from that bank. And then the airstrip was right over here where the stand of trees are. There's a fairly big enough for the planes, the small local air carriers to land there. But that was the main mode of transportation, was the airplane, and then of course the fishing boats. And
But this was so beautiful, you know. And in the evenings with the moon coming up over the water, I remember things like that. And in the winter time with the mountains in the background, and we'd be skating on the lake.
the moon shining on them, and they just stood out.
Yeah. Now see, this here was a little pond, maybe, 150 feet long, maybe, or this way, and 50 feet that way. So then that back there was all swamp, and this was all kind of meadowland, just kind of like this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the store building was, right here. Probably, I am not really sure, hundreds of years. I don't think it was there 1,000 years. Probably, you know, the at least 300 years. There was a lot of Scandinavian people. And of course, you know, the Russians, when they bought Alaska, some of them lived on the island, but I think when they came, there had already been a village here. They say that it was a place where they just dropped off sailors that were unruly or suspected of mutiny. I don't know if they dropped them off in this exact spot, but they said that they chose to stay here because of the reefs and the open sea. It was hard for ships to come in. They had to anchor. Even when we lived here, they had to anchor way out there. And there were rocks that nobody knew about. You know, one of the men said he knew where every rock was because he had hit them. You have weeds in your yard.
Flat rock right up there.
Just that flat square rock. We would dive off of it, jump over the side when the tide was high, and belly flop.
That tree planted.
I don't know if it's so. I don't think it's cottonwood. It has to see the.
They came in the big old Benny sacks, and then it brought seed and stuff here. There used to be a bunch of
Yeah. There were no trees. Oh, look at that tree. It's growing right in front of the window.
Remember that? Crabapple tree.
When they first opened Sears store in Kodiak. They came over and they saw Abner was building a house, and they said, "We'd like to have you buy things from Sears. We're opening a new office in town." And Abner said, "What, have you ever seen any of this before? This is a Sears house." So, you know how much it cost us to build this house? $10,000. Wow. By the time we got it finished, Abner added up all the bills and he didn't believe in borrowing. Everything had to be paid for. So it took us 5 years, that's why it took us 5 years to build. But he did this mostly all by himself. Welcome to my house. Come in and have some tea and just take the fresh tea. This was where we kept the shoes. There was a stair there, so we didn't know what else to do with this. This was kind of the mud room. That was out there. This was our kitchen. And we had a little table here. And Abner built these cabinets and put that up there. You can see the 50s with the aqua walls. And this was the dining room. And it looked big to us back then, But we had a table and chairs. And of course, the upstairs, we never did get to finish that. We planned to put the kids up there, but we never got that finished. And then the living room, we had this gorgeous view up here. And everything that's in this house was either from Montgomery Ward or Sears. So, and the trees were not there. That was all clear, so we had that beautiful view, This is the bathroom if we ever got one, And this is our bedroom. And we plan to have the kids up, upstairs. And
Dad played the guitar, so he hung his 2 guitars out here.
Oh,
I
that's
still see the
Abner's.
hooks.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. He
Let's see
played
'em.
Chet Atkins style.
Yes, he made the guitar talk.
Gibson and what was it? Gibson
I think
guitar.
well, the one was the ukulele, I think.
Yeah, this is the Sears house.
Maybe Abner would take us up towards that.
And that's where we were when we were sitting in the living room there. We were sitting right here, and the table, the coffee table,
The whole
moved,
house just kind of jerked, a big jolt.
and suddenly it just started shaking like that. A jolt.
And then it started, shaking. And then we all ran out, of course.
Did you remember the rumble before the?
Oh my goodness.
It was like
It
a
was
freight
like
train,
a
real
jerk.
loud. I just remember the birds flying. They were just erratic, just flying all over, and the dogs were down at the beach barking. And then we heard the rumbling, and we came out here and stood in the doorway. And the ground here was just going and rolling.
And the ground was rolling. I remember stepping over these waves and it was in the ground was frozen too. It's even hard to imagine it after you've been in it, the ground is so hard to work when you're trying to dig a garden or something, but it was rolling. It's just,
You couldn't stand up.
yeah.
And these trees, see how high they are? Probably about 60 feet. There were more trees out this way, and they were just going.
Imagine these big trees
Swaying.
going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I was just holding Vicky and Jesse under each arm and walking out there and just praying, Lord. I thought the ground was going to open any minute and just swallow us up because it was so noisy. It was just, yeah. And then once it stopped, then Abner's brother had been listening to the shortwave radio, and he called down and said, we better get to high ground too, but when I saw that water coming in and out, I knew that there was going to be a wave. And then but we thought that was it, that it was over. But then they called and said Seward was just wiped out.
And the car was over there. Dad was gassing up the Willie's Jeep, and he got his chainsaw out in case the tree fell across the road. And the whole time he was gassing up the Jeep, Mom, wasn't it just jumping? Yeah, shaking.
Shaking, it wasn't, yeah. I think it was pretty much over by then.
It was 5 minutes.
No, 3
It was-
minutes.
No,
Was it
the
5 minutes?
earthquake was over, yeah.
It was
Oh,
5 minutes.
And
Seemed
it
like
was
the end of the world.
9.2, I believe, on the Richter scale.
And we didn't have running water, so we had the
Abner was
dish
our
pan
running
on the
water.
stove, and we were heating water to do the dishes before we left to the movie King of Kings, which was in the new community center down the way.
It was Good Friday.
It was Good Friday. And we would run in the house and gather up our things and clothes or whatever, blankets that we could take. We had our Easter clothes and dresses and things. And I just remember my Easter dress in the bedroom, and I said to Dad, could I please take my Easter dress? And he said, no, we better just put it up.
I had a dress on, and they started gathering clothes for me.
I remember running back in, and as we were in here, then it would start, the ground would start. And we stood here. Do you remember, Mom? We stood here and we just watched the tide, and it was just going out. Then it would come back in, and it would just keep doing that. Finally, it just started coming in, and I remember the dogs were barking down there at the beach. And it started just rising slowly, and it never stopped. So we just got out. We went down the road and across the bridge. And as we crossed the bridge, there was another car coming behind, and the bridge had washed out. So that car had to drive all the way back over to Aleutown. to get, yeah. And I think their car was stalled in the water because, so they had to run
walk
across the lake.
the lake, and the ice was breaking, cracking as the, you know.
From the pressure of the water and the ice.
How much time was there between the earthquake and the tsunami?
Well, maybe I'm not
20
really
minutes?
sure. Yeah, it wasn't very long.
No, but
And you know, we were watching the tides come in and go out.
so this whole part right here dried out.
See that rock out there in the bay, beyond Abner? It was dry from there.
Wow.
Dad said they never saw the bottom, you know, so many rocks.
So after the earthquake, people knew that there might be a tsunami coming, but
Yeah.
there's no
Well,
certainty?
and then they were listening to the shortwave, and Seward,
Radio.
the shortwave radio, and Seward said that there was I forgot how many foot wave, and it just took out our dock and our, you know, and they were telling about it, and they were warning everybody on the coastal area to get to higher ground. We stayed up on high ground for a couple of days, but then when you came back down, all the familiar, you know, homes and sites that you'd seen for all your lifetime were just all gone.
When we came back to the house after we had gone up the mountain, it was full of water. So we had to clean out all the silt.
And you know, the water came up, there were marks. There were marks a little above, just, I guess, a little below the windows out there. And there was only an inch of water in the floor when we got. That's how much water came in from the. There must have been tons of nails in here, and Abner had built this so solid.
So we put it up in the closet and it was fine. We came back. Everything was
Still
there.
It was, I just really feel bad for the people that go through the hurricanes down there. When we first came down from the hill, high ground, we were wondering, what happened? The tide has never been up this high before. What's going on? And so everybody was guessing about what could it be.
Yeah.
You know, then we found out that the ground had sunk 5 to 7 feet. The ground had sunk 5 to 7 feet.
I was in school in Canada and we heard that there was a massive earthquake on Kodiak. And so they said on the national news that the island had sunk. They didn't really specify that it just sunk maybe 5 feet. So it made it sound like they said that it sunk. And I couldn't get a hold of Mom or Dad for about a week. Every day I'd go to the administration office and ask if they heard anything, and they hadn't for a week. Finally, the Red Cross through radio, because all the communication was down, contact the school, and then I finally found out everybody was safe. So
Poor thing, that must have been
Wow.
agonizing.
And how old were you?
15.
15.
lived here about almost a year, close to a year. We were about the last ones out of the village when we got on a boat, fishing boat, and this was in close to Thanksgiving, and just said our last goodbyes as we were going out on the boat and waving, you know, and just then when we arrived in Port Lions, it was brand new. It was just like a little city. It's so vivid in my mind. It's like it happened yesterday, really. I just remember a lot, you know, when it started and just from the very beginning, and it was like the end of the world. You know, we didn't know what was happening.
Abner and I were in Anchorage one time for a senior meeting, and we were at the Sheraton Hotel. We were down in the conference room, and they had an earthquake. I don't know what size it was, but the lights, the chandeliers on were just clanking and, you know,
Yeah.
going back and forth. And everybody was saying, "Oh, dive under the table." The first thing that entered my mind was this building was built after the Great Earthquake. And I'm sure that it's earthquake proof. So I didn't get too excited. And I said, "No, too undignified. I'm not going to dive under the table."